Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the NBA Front Office Show. Trevor Lane here, joined by Keith Smith. Oh boy, the NBA season is right around the corner, and we've got plenty of things to talk about. Keith, how was your weekend, man? I spent my weekend being sick. How was your weekend?
Thankfully, I was recovered fairly quickly, which tells me it was probably allergies
Yeah,
more than anything else. But we as we do often this time of year, we spend a lot of the weekend in the car driving to and from soccer. But 2 wins in the weekend for the girls, and they're coming around and really starting to look like they might be a pretty fun team this year. So we're really excited about that. And yeah, man, month from today, we'll be talking about real actual games and everything. I
yes.
can't wait. We're almost there.
Not even. We've got preseason in just a couple weeks.
True,
Less
true.
than 2
Yes,
weeks
yeah,
for preseason.
yeah,
Keith, and I
yeah.
will take that. I will take preseason
No
basketball
doubt.
at this point
Absolutely.
happily, because I can't wait for the guys to get actually out there on the floor. Most teams starting up media day. Actually, I think what the Mavs and who is it that has media day
Timberwolves.
this week? Wolves. There you go. That have media day
Because they're
this week.
playing
Next week
over in
for everybody else.
Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah,
So
right. Next Thursday, the 5th at noon Eastern.
we'll start getting answers to all of our questions. It's going to be
There it is.
It's going to be a
Yeah.
lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's jump right into the news. I know we're on a little bit of a time crunch for
Yeah,
today.
we're gonna
but
speed run this episode. That's a term I
right.
just learned, so I'm working it in there about speed running video games. I didn't know this was a thing, and apparently people
Oh,
play
like when
video
somebody
games.
beats Mario in
in like
5
a
minutes
minute,
or something like that.
or whatever it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, I
Crazy.
told my daughter that somebody did that, and she's in disbelief after getting killed by those Goombas so many times.
Oh,
All right,
man.
let's start with this. This is all Lillard adjacent,
Yes.
but I don't want to start with Damian Lillard today. No. Let's talk about Tyler Herro. There are teams apparently kind of lining up around the league that are willing to be the third, maybe fourth team in a Dame trade in order to get Tyler Herro out of all of this. I know the Utah Jazz are one such team. There's a bunch of teams though that are considered potential landing spots because he's a good player. And is there a landing spot do you think makes the most sense, Keith?
Yeah, I mean the other teams that this Jake Fisher was the one who I first saw mention this, and this came out, I believe it was like Friday evening, when all this landed. But it was the Jazz, the Bulls, the Hornets, and the Nets. The Nets we had heard before is potentially a team that could jump in there. Jazz do not surprise me because Danny Ainge, when he was running the Celtics, really wanted Tyler Herro badly, and the Heat drafted him, I believe, one pick before the Celtics took Romeo Langford, which didn't exactly work out for Boston. I still think Romeo, if he had been able to stay healthy, would have been a player, but that's a whole other thing. Hornets are kind of interesting just because of kind of where they're at. You'd need to add an awful lot of defense if you're starting with a LaMelo and Tyler Herro backcourt tandem. But Brandon Miller projects like he should be a pretty good defender. We'll see what they do with Miles Bridges. PJ Washington signed long term. Mark Williams looks like he's going to be a solid defensive center. So, maybe they can make it work. And then the Bulls, that to me would have to mean Zach LaVine's moving on because I don't know why you need both of them. That doesn't really make sense. Yeah. So we'll see. So it's man. I think one of the more disappointing things about this whole Damian Lillard saga to me, beyond the fact that the trade's not done yet, is that Tyler Herro has caught a lot of slander in this. A lot of people act like all of a sudden he's just not a good player. And I just don't get it.
And that's not what the situation is. So you've got, and right now, if you're part of the the Twitter sphere, whatever you want to call it, the social media sphere, you've got Blazers fans versus Heat fans, right? It's this thing that's going on where Heat fans are give us Dame and take what it is we're offering because you're not getting anything else. Blazers fans saying no, we need the world because it's Dame and and every opinion in between, right? And I think that you're right. Tyler Herro kind of gets caught in the crossfire. But I think part of it is that dynamic where Blazers fans, they're not going to talk up Tyler Herro because then it makes it seem like they're willing to take less, right? Tyler Herro, if Tyler Herro is great, then cool. We don't have to give you X, Y, and Z in the deal too. But on top of that, they don't really have a need for Tyler Herro. Now, the direction that Portland is going in, I would contend that I don't care about need. Get the best players that you can and worry about fit later and figure things out if you're going into a rebuild. That being said, you paid a lot of money to Anthony Simons, so I get it, right?
Yeah, Shaden Sharp, who's
It's
maybe
Shane
best
Sharp
as
as
a
well,
2 as well. So yeah,
who's,
I get
I
it from
mean,
their standpoint.
right. I mean, he's incredible, right? So incredibly explosive. So with that being the case too, the fact that he isn't really a need in Portland, that casts some unfortunate kind of negative light on Tyler Herro for no other reason than just he's not a fit in Portland. Doesn't mean he's not a good player, just he's not the right guy for that particular moment for that particular team.
Yeah, I've also seen, I think it's just people who don't want Dame to go to Miami, or people who just
Oh,
they don't like Miami. Also, like, he's just not good. All he does is, shoot. And I mean, he's a good shooter, but he's a good scorer just in general. He's a
mhm,
better playmaker than I think he gets given a lot of credit for. No, he's not a good defender. He's probably never going to be a good defender. And a lot of the Miami scheme covers for him with that, with guys like Bam and Jimmy Butler being great
mhm,
defenders when they need to be. So yeah, I do kind of wonder. I will say I put a thing up on Spot Track today. It was the first of, we'll have 6 of these pieces. We're doing them by division, but it was the biggest questions for each team. So just hopefully, people go check that out. And one of the things I said is, all right, so if Miami doesn't trade for Damian Lillard, what do they do at point guard? Because they don't know that it's as cut and dry as, well, Kyle Lowry.
right.
Because Kyle Lowry lost his starting job last year. And I know some people are like, well, yeah, because he was injured, but he was losing it before that happened, then lost it, came back, and never got it back. I do kind of wonder, do you just shift Tyler Herro into the on-ball role and say,
Mm.
hey, between him and Butler and Bam, we've got enough playmaking, and we just move along that way and start either Duncan Robinson to replace Max Strus, or do you throw another defender in the mix if you want to go that way? Somebody like maybe Josh Richardson, who could do a little bit of everything. I think those are ways they could go. But yeah, I do think Tyler Herro's been kind of cast in a light of now where it's like, I'm not going to argue too crazy that he's super
Mhm.
underrated and he's awesome, but Tyler Herro is a lot better than they kind of just throw in this overpaid throwing that people are trying to turn him into.
And people just don't like the Billy Idol snarl, apparently, or something like
I
that.
think that's true too. Yeah.
That's part of it. Keith, for another show, we don't have time today, but be interesting to discuss the number of teams that are attempting or potentially going to attempt a non-traditional point guard handling the ball. You look at Phoenix, you look at potentially Miami, Boston's
Yeah.
talked about Jason Tatum handling the basketball, and how that's starting to become more and more of a thing. And just if there's that's a big picture discussion to at some point get into, but potentially could see that happen in Miami too if a deal doesn't get struck. But
Yep.
a deal could get done too that sends Damian Lillard somewhere else, maybe
Maybe.
north,
Yeah.
the Raptors. But
Is
all right,
Toronto
so
north of Portland?
what's that?
Is Toronto actually north of Portland?
Oh, good question.
Yeah.
I
I don't
need to
know.
look that up. Okay, as I'm looking that up, I'm gonna say this. Um, the Raptors have emerged as a potential landing spot for Lillard as other teams are starting to pop up as we're getting closer and closer to media day and that kind of deadline and all that. Not a real deadline, but a de facto deadline for getting a deal done. Teams would like to get it done before training camp starts up. So the Raptors have emerged as a potential landing spot. But let me ask you this, Keith, given the way the Raptors have operated the last few years around the trade deadline, where all their guys are out there on the block, it's OG Anunoby, it's Kyle Lowry, it's Fred VanVleet, and then they don't wind up doing anything. It all ends up kind of just being noise. The stories out there, the teams are actually buying that the Raptors are really in. Why? When the Raptors have showed us most recently, what they do is they make noise, but they don't pull any triggers here.
Yeah, I think this is one where people are basically saying, hey, this isn't just a leverage play, right? The Trailblazers aren't just throwing the Raptors in there just because.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just seeing it come across that Mark Spears apparently said somewhere today. It's hard because it's coming through one of those aggregation accounts, but it's one that's actually a real one, and it says the Raptors are emerging as the front runners to land
Ooh,
Damian Lillard. So
wow.
maybe I would say I think what Toronto is looking at 2 out of the last 3 years, they've missed out on the playoffs. The 1 year they did make it, they got handled very easily in the first round. I wonder if they're feeling a little bit of pressure of, hey, we got to do something, right? And we've seen
Mm-hmm.
Masai Ujiri. I mean, they went and got Kawhi Leonard when Kawhi basically made it known. Now I know he didn't come out directly and say, but made it known, I'm not resigning that. And then he didn't. But what did he do in between? He won him a title. So who really cares? right? He won you a title, and the old flags fly forever kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I do kind of wonder with the Raptors if they feel like, hey, we can keep enough back in reserve, because Pascal Siakam presumably wouldn't
Yeah.
be in a trade, because that wouldn't make sense
And
for
no Scotty
Portland.
Barnes.
Yeah, so if it's either Anunoby or Barnes, quite frankly, I'd give up Scotty Barnes in a reasonable Damian Lillard trade if it was me. I'm just not
Really,
that high on Scotty Barnes.
the
I
Raptors
like
fans
him.
I've
I'm
seen
just
have been like
yeah,
Armageddon will be
I know.
unleashed if they trade Scotty Barnes for
Yeah.
Lillard.
But I think that's because they didn't trade him for Kevin Durant, and people are like, "Oh, what did you do?" Right? So I
Okay.
think there's some of that in there too. But if you're going to keep one of those two guys, probably Siakam. Pirtle's obviously going to stick around. Get Damian Lillard. That's a pretty good team, right? You're probably a contender to make a run in the East around that group, assuming normal health and all that stuff. So it makes a lot of sense to me that they could be in the mix here. I don't think this is just being used to drive it up, because the other thing is, generally when you're trying to drive the price up, you're trying to drive it so the other team will throw that one more thing in.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like Miami's already thrown everything in that they can. So I don't know, where we're trying to drive it up. If it's, hey, Heat, you have to put, I don't know what, Haywood Highsmith in the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, he's catching strays here in the crossfire, but it's like, I don't know. I mean, I get it. I think Toronto may finally be ready to say, all right, let's, instead of just watching dudes walk away and just kind of this whole thing peters out and let's start over. Let's go. Let's make the big move. Let's take a home run cut.
You are right. Not just a salary cap czar, but also a geography guru, Keith. You are right. Portland is farther north, looking at the map, than Toronto is. So actually, I guess he'd be traveling south to go to.
There was a whole
the
thing
Raptors
when Toronto did the whole "We the North" thing,
Mhm.
where like 3 or 4 other teams were like, "We're actually further north than you are." So like, what are we doing here? But yeah, that's a whole other thing.
That's fun. I don't recall that, but that's funny. So if Toronto was to do this, presumably, I mean, your guard rotation is really strong with Dennis Schroeder and you've got Dame, and then it just becomes and then it just becomes a question of what gets put into the deal to get it done. But if they're now the front runner, this very well could turn into a Donovan Mitchell situation all over again, right? Where it's, oh no, he's going to New York. Oh no, wait, the Cavs? What? That could be happening here with the Toronto Raptors. Now, would Dame play? I've seen some reports out there that he would not be happy to go to Toronto.
Yeah, I don't know that he'd be thrilled, right? Because I don't think it's as cut and dry as going to Miami. Most guys like Toronto. I don't know how many guys truly love living there that are U.S. born players. There are challenges with that. We've heard many players talk about that in the past, but most guys do love the city itself. Like they love it. They know the fans are tremendous there. So that's not a thing. So that becomes another part of this maybe. So, but I think if you're Toronto, what you're probably looking at is, hey, we'll get him in here. We'll give it a year or so. And if he doesn't like it, we could always trade him again. And then if you're Masai Ujiri, it's kind of like Billy Bean and Moneyball when he's like, when I sell him for twice as much, I get to keep the difference. Yeah. So maybe Masai pulls one of those out with Bobby Webster and says, hey, we'll flip him for twice as much as what we gave up to get him. So we'll see. I to me, it is starting to sound like maybe it is going to be somebody else, right? And someone else jumps in there and grabs them, because I just go back to, this isn't a thing where it's like, all right, Miami, you got to give up that other thing that you've been holding back, because I just don't think the Heat are doing
that. So Damian Lillard and Ricardo Rincon is what you're saying.
That's it. And I don't want them pitching against me tonight.
That's right.
Switch locker rooms.
That's right. All right,
let's jump. Magnante gets sent down because of it.
Oh, so sad. So sad. All right, let's get into the other guy that's been out there all summer. This feels much less likely to be resolved prior to media day, James Harden, but he is still reportedly hoping for a trade to the Clippers. But again, if the Clippers aren't interested in trading for him, and the 76ers, or at least not interested in paying what the 76ers want, and the 76ers are not interested in negatively impacting their team in terms of the overall quality of their squad, it's hard to see. Something has to give here in order for a deal to get done, and I don't know what side that's going to come from.
Yeah, I don't know. It just kind of feels like no ship, pun intended here, but the ship has sailed on the Clippers with this, right? Like it's just I think it might be done. I just don't know that they're interested in giving up the things Masai Ujiri wants, and I think from Masai Ujiri, Daryl Morey, sorry, Freudian slip there. I just think they might be in a position where Daryl Morey is like, all right, well, and I'm not going to take back other stuff. Right. Like I want to be here. There was a lot of reporting that came out. Like there was rumors that maybe Marcus Morris might skip training camp and not go to training camp with the Clippers if he's going to be traded and X, Y, and Z. And I think those are kind of funny because the most apt response I saw to those was people being like, Marcus Morris is now threatening to sit out.
Right.
But it came out that it's not even a thing. He's like, no, I'll be there. Like Robert Covington apparently has been like, I want to start. Nick Batum has apparently said, like, I'm cool to come off the bench. So I think the Clippers have a lot of stuff to figure out. None the less of Kawhi and PG. Are they going to be fully ready to go to start the year? Like, where are we at with this and all that stuff? So yeah, I mean, I think there was a time and place where this made a lot of sense. And I don't know if that time and place has passed because, again, we're a week out from everything getting started. And maybe this is just another, hey, let's try to get this back, in the world and try to make it happen. But I'm really not sure.
Yeah, it seems a lot less likely that we see a resolution here than with the Dame trade front, which, again, the clock is ticking. We'll see what happens. All right, let's finish up with this. Klay Thompson and the Warriors have not talked extension just yet. I still, if this was a different situation, maybe you'd raise some eyebrows.
Yeah,
but it's Klay and the Warriors. Like they know each other. They there's that relationship that's built in there. Like if this was, player X got traded to team Y and at the trade deadline last year, and they've gone all summer and they still haven't talked trade extension. And oh my gosh, very different situation here. I don't think there's anything to worry. I think that when the time is right, they'll get something done, and Klay will wind up retiring a Warrior.
Yeah, agreed. He's going to be 34 about the middle of this season or so. He's in the final year of his contract, so that does allow it to go all the way through June 30th at midnight. They could agree to an extension. That's the way it works with guys on expiring deals. So, and there's not even a option that complicates things or anything. He's straight on the final year of his contract. I think signing Draymond Green and not losing him sent the message to me of, hey, we're going to do right by these guys. And as long as they can all still play and want to be here, we're going to keep it together. And to me, the cool story is we were like a year ago, well, probably not a year ago, like a year and a half ago. Is Klay going to retire or where are we at with this? And, and here we are, he's still going. So I think we're in a spot where it makes a lot of sense for this to kind of be, the way it's going because he has played pretty well over the last 2 years. So I do think my guess is you're right. This just gets done. It's just a question of, does it happen now? Does it happen later? Or is this one of those ones like we're all kind of hanging out and, March 2nd, all of a sudden we get, Klay and the Warriors are extending the deal. The last 2 years, I had to look this up to be sure. He averaged over 20 points per game. Even like this Klay, still a 20-point per game guy. Like
it's the defensive drop off that people are really noticing.
Yeah.
Which is what happens.
Tricky too, because now it's like, all right, who plugs in there, right? Because it used to be Steph, you just threw him on whoever the weakest guy was.
Yeah.
Like Klay chased the point guards around. And now that he can't really do that, they're not quite what they once were. It's also kind of why I think Kevon Looney maybe still sticks in the starting group, and then Chris Paul comes off the bench, but we'll see.
Yeah. Question is, who are you going to get to come out? Who is easier to convince to come off the bench, Chris Paul or Kevon Looney? I have a feeling it's going to be the latter. Yeah, that could wind up being the deciding factor in that situation. So All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining us for today's show. Make sure that you do subscribe to the NBA Front Office Show here on the YouTube channel. Don't forget to also follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is you listen to podcasts. We'll be back tomorrow with all the latest going on around the league. Till then, everybody.
And hopefully, you won't have to speed run it, right?
That's right.
The princess was in this castle. She's not in another castle. Let's go.
Let's go. Mario references to close it out. I love it. See ya and stay safe.